Hey there, all you math people out there. How are you doing today? This is Mr. Ellison. You know what I'm doing? I'm welcoming you out, like always, to my Math Minute. Okay, we're going to have a math tutorial today, and I'm going to talk to you guys about proportions. Okay? Now, where we start learning proportions is in 6th grade. Actually, you learn them even sooner than that. If you know what two equivalent fractions are, then you know what a proportion is. And some of the kids, they've done proportions and they don't even know it. But I'm going to show you. Okay, now, a proportion is nothing more than two ratios that are equal to each other. Now, ratios. Let's go back to ratios. Ratios are one number in comparison to another number. Now, let's just say we have a 1 to 2 ratio. A ratio can be written in one of two ways. It can be written with a colon, such as 1 to 2, or it can be written in our famous fraction form, okay, 1 over 2. Watch. If we have a 1 over 2 ratio, that's 1/2. Now, another ratio that's equivalent to this one is a 3 to 6 ratio. All right? These are two ratios, and they're set equal to each other. This is a proportion. Now, because this is actually, if you reduce it, it is a 1 to 2 ratio. For every 1, you're going to have 2. For every 1, you have 2. But you know what makes it a proportion problem? So easy. You're going to kick yourself when you see. All I got to do is take one of these parts of the ratio, one part of one of these ratios, and get rid of it and put a variable there. Now I have a problem to solve. As before, I had two equivalent fractions, but now I erased one of my parts of a ratio and I put an x there. Now we're going to talk about how to set up a proportion. Now, in this particular problem, whenever you set up a proportion, you want to make sure that the things you're comparing are lined up with each other. You want to make sure you're basically comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges, and not apples to oranges, because when you're finding proportions, you can't compare apples to oranges. And also, whenever you set up a proportion, you want to make sure that order matters. The way you position the numbers, it matters, okay? Now, when you read a word problem, like the one I'm going to give you right here, you want to make sure you match up one unit of measurement with another one. And on the bottom, you want to make sure that the units of measurement match up, okay? And then you want to follow the order in which you get information. That's a really good idea. When you're reading word problems, read them carefully. And then put the numbers in there into the proportion in order which they go. Now, let's see. We've got words and we've got minutes. Now, the order is words first and minutes second. So what we're going to do is we're going to put words on the top and minutes on the bottom. Now, on the other side of you want to do the same thing. You want to make sure that words match up with words and minutes match up with minutes. So minutes, words and minutes. Now, it says, if Tom can type 500 words in 10 minutes, how many words can he type in 40 minutes? Okay, now the first number we have is 500. So 500 goes right here next to words. 500. And we know he types them in 10 minutes. Our minutes are the second part of that ratio. It's a 500 to 10 ratio. Now, our next one is how many words. So they don't tell us how many words, so what we're going to do is we're going to put a variable there. How many words can he type in 40 minutes? So see the minutes, so everything lines up. Now there's two ways you can solve this problem, okay, to find out how many words he can type in 40 minutes, given that he can type 500 words in 10 minutes. Now one of them, I'm going to show you, it's the easiest way in the world, okay, and you can You can use it this way. Sometimes you'll have to, if it's a 0.5 number or a decimal number, that can be a little tricky. But if it's an even multiple number, it's really easy to do. Now, one method we can use is cross multiplication, which I'm about to show you in a few seconds, or we can use the multiple method. Now let's look from 10 to 4 to from 10 to 40. We have a multiple of 4. So we can multiply times 4. Now remember, whenever we're finding an equivalent ratio or an equivalent fraction, we want to do the same thing on the top and the bottom because they're proportional. Okay? We need to do the same thing on the top as the bottom. So we're going to multiply times 4 on the top. Now, 500 words times 4, we know in 40 minutes he's going to be able to type 2,000 words. Now we're going to hold that answer and we're going to put it 2,000 words for our first strategy. Okay, now we're going to go to our second strategy and we're going to do cross multiplication. Now, I don't know how many of y'all have done cross multiplication before, but those of y'all who have and just maybe need a different angle on it, I'm going to show you guys a little something. Now this is what I've always told my kids. Whenever you have a number, when you have an equation with a variable in it, I like to think of it as that variable has the plague, okay? And it wants to be by itself. Everything else wants to get far away from it, okay? And so x is by itself. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cross multiply, which means we're going to go from the top and we're going to go across and multiply 10 times x. Now when we multiply a variable and a whole number together, we get 10x. Okay? And now we're going to start at the top here and we're going to cross over and multiply 500 times 40. Now 500 times 40 gives me 20,000. So 20,000. Now we bring down our equal sign and we've done our cross, and see it makes a cross. Okay, that's why they call it cross multiplication. Now, 10 times some number, 10 times some unknown number is going to give us 20,000. Okay. Now, since we have to multiply these two numbers together, there's a multiplication operation. Now, anytime you have a number that's next to a variable, you want to do the opposite operation when you're going across the equal sign. So, if we're multiplying on this side of the equal sign, in order to get x by itself, we want to divide by 10, okay? And that cancels out 10 and it leaves x all by its lonesome. And then we have x. Now, remember, with an equation, you want to do on one side, you want to do on the other side of the equal sign. So when we divide on this side, we want to divide on this side. And 20,000 divided by 10 gives us 2,000. We have effectively checked our work. Check and check. Now, I hope this proportions exercise was helpful. I hope those of y'all who are struggling with doing cross multiplication, I hope maybe this gave you a little bit different angle. And those of y'all who didn't know about the multiple method, that's another weapon you can use in your repertoire when test taking or when solving problems in class. Thanks for coming out to Mr. Ellison's Math Minute, and I hope y'all had fun. I know I did. Y'all be good, and y'all keep doing your math, and I'll see you soon. Bye.